Here is the culprit right here. Let's see, rod bearing, just gone. Make sure there's not a single metal chunk in there. All right, that's perfect. Alright, welcome back to I think this is 4 on the 2015 Polaris Ranger 570 full size. So we picked this thing up for $2,700 and we found out it had a rod knock. I think that was like 4 videos ago. So we ended up rebuilding the whole engine last video and we got this in the machine. Let's see here. So engine is completely in here. We didn't have enough time to start this thing up, so today's video is going to be the first start and first ride in this thing, hopefully. We're hoping it starts up today. But we got to quick add some oil, add some coolant, and we should be able to test this thing out. I also got a brand new battery for it and a filter. So we've got battery hookups, big battery for it. This battery was like 150 bucks. It's a huge battery for it. And then the filter they had at the store as well. So let's get going on this thing, and we'll see if all of our hard work paid off. All right, we got a brand new Wix filter here. Just going to oil up the O-ring. Put the oil on there. So way down here, you can twist this on. Now we're using some 10W40. And we'll add 2 quarts. Alright, here was the old filter that was on it. It was an original Polaris filter. And this machine has, I think, 11,000 miles on it. So if they ran the same filter for all that time, that would be unreal. The new battery for it. I think it's pretty big. Let's see here. This thing has 400 cold cranking amps on it, so I think the one for this machine calls for over 300, so this was the next best size here. So we'll get this hooked up. The attachments on it right now are for a car battery, it looks like. Underneath the seat here, you can see you've got attachments like that. And it looks like this one fell off at one point for the positive terminal here. So we're going to cut that and get some new ones on so that it works with that battery. And it doesn't look like there's actually a battery tie down here. I think it's supposed to be right there. Here's a hook place right there for it. So maybe we can take a bungee cord and make something work with that. Alright, we got the battery hooked up here. Negative to negative, positive to positive. Let's see if this thing turns on here. See if any engine codes come on. Should we just see if it cranks here? Put my foot on the brake. Alright, it cranks. Alright, next step is getting coolant in this thing. So, coolant. I believe we can get to underneath here. So here's the radiator, and here's the overflow for the coolant. So what we want to do is fill this up to the minimum mark down here, and then we're going to fill the coolant up all the way, and then we're going to crack the thermostat bolt, which is right, where is it on this thing? Right here. We're gonna crack that, pour the coolant in, and we'll pour it in until it starts coming out in a smooth stream from there. We'll tighten that back off, and then we'll start this thing up with the jack underneath it. We'll jack it up, start it up, let this thing run for a little bit, and then repeat the process until this thing has the fan turning on and turning off and cooling down on its own. Alright, we've got this thing jacked up a little bit. You can see the jack underneath there. Now we're going to crack the breather. I believe that's an 8mm. Alright, we finally got the breather bolt off. You can see how mangled that is. I had to take the vice grips and get it off the rest of the way, but that thing was on there. Alright, now we're going to pour coolant until it comes out of this hole right there. We'll keep the funnel in the radiator, so we're gonna have to add some more. But let's see if this thing fires up. Should be interesting. All right, here we go. First start attempt since the rebuild. Will she fire? far so good. All right, we'll look for oil leaks, fix those, and then get this coolant to circulate. Sounding pretty good. All right, so I just checked the oil, everything looks good. Now we're gonna run it until this machine gets up to temp so that the thermostat opens and lets the coolant through. So far everything's looking pretty good. Smoking a little bit, looks like. See a little oil leak right here on this thing. See the temp gauge. 93 degrees. That little knocking is a clutch. Yeah, it's leaking oil from the gasket right here. We'll have to fix that. Let's see what the temp is. 120. Just gonna fix that oil leak before that gets worse. Looks like it's leaking right where the chain tensioner gasket is. Of course, it's an aftermarket tensioner we put on there that's leaking. All right, we got rid of that oil leak. That's good. Alright, just letting this thing idle until it gets up to temp here. The fan is supposed to come on around 200 degrees. We're at 163, 165. So we're getting close. Alright, the highest I could get this up to was like 187, and then it went back down to like 179, so somehow it's cooling itself off. So we never got the thermostat to open to let the coolant through. So what we're gonna have to do is ride this thing and get it above the 200 degrees. I think what we're gonna do is put everything back together and take it for a quick ride. thing runs perfectly. It's really nice. Alright, this thing's been idling for 10 minutes here. It will not go past 183 degrees. This won't do it. So that's probably a good thing. It means it's running cold. So I checked the hose right here, and this hose is hot going back to the radiator, so it's circulating coolant for sure. So there's no issues there. Let's see if it's hot over here. Yep, it's hot in both lines, so it's definitely circulating. Engine sounds really good. No smoke at all. Alright, it hit 201 degrees and the fan came on. So that's working. Awesome. Finally. That is working good. Alright, let's see if we have to add more coolant. Alright, you can see coolant is topped off in there. And we're at the max for the coolant reservoir. So I think we're gonna be good. I had this idling for like 20 minutes just sitting here, and finally it came up to temp. Alright, first test drive on this thing went really well. This thing's super smooth, suspension feels really good. 4x4 was working, so everything seems to work pretty well. We're gonna quick check the oil, and then I wanna change out the rear differential and the transmission oil back here. And then I wanna check the front diff as well, see what that oil looks like before we take it on a longer ride. But yeah, everything's good so far. Super tight, nothing dripping from the engine at all. No coolant leaking anywhere, so I'm really happy with it. It turned out pretty good. Alright, screw this in. We'll check it. And we are right at the top mark over here. So oil is perfect. Alright, we're changing out this rear differential transmission fluid, and the bolt is going to be right there. Drain bolt's right there. Fill bolt is right there. Some oil deposits in there. You can see the oil draining. It's really black in there. Looks pretty gross. Alright, oil's a little black as you can see, so let's get that changed out. Alright, this is what we're using, synthetic 5W20. This is what they recommend if you don't have the Polaris brand. So we're just going to pump this in until it runs off these threads here. That's kind of how you do that. So let's just see how much we can pump in here. They say around 38 ounces is what you want. So that's about a quart, a little bit more. Alright, that's completely filled up. Just a little bit more, just to make sure. But you can see it's draining out. So let's get our back in. Alright, transmission and rear diff fluid is changed. Alright, coming over to the front diff, you can see right there is the fill hole. And then underneath here, right there is the drain. A little tricky to get to back here. Yeah, that looks pretty empty to me. That looked pretty new actually. Wasn't a whole lot in there, but it's pretty clear. Alright, that was the amount of oil in the front diff. Obviously not enough. It should take about 250 milliliters, so it was a little bit low. It wasn't horribly low, but it was still low. I'm gonna be using the trans and diff lube here. Pump some of this in. Alright, front diff fluid is changed. Alright, this seat is cracked pretty bad, so we're going to plastic weld that up, or repair it I should say, and use a couple staples to get that secured back on, because right now the foam is just pushing through. See how bad that is down there. So hopefully that'll work. Let's put this on here like that. Alright, we stapled all the way around that crack, and we fixed that up. So that's as good as that's going to get, unless we replace it. So it would be nice to get a new seat cover at least for it. hope to see what we can find. All right, made it out here with the Ranger 570. Let's see what this thing can do today. One thing I did notice, if you guys own a Ranger and you're having the same problem, or if you go and buy a Ranger, the seatbelt needs to be plugged in order for it to go over 15 miles an hour. I was riding this thing for the first time and really opened it up, and it would bog down at like 15 miles an hour. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there's a safety mechanism on the seatbelt where it needs to be plugged in to let you go over that 15 miles an hour. So I was getting a little worried there for a second. Should be interesting. It looks like the tailgate came undone here. I ordered up a new light for it, a new lens right here, and then a new latch, because it's not latching. So those are coming from eBay. And then I checked the seat prices. The cushions for the bottom were $350 for the pair. So for 2 cushions here. So I might just order those up as well. These are really, really rough. Let's get this thing fired up. this is 4x4 right here. Alright, well this thing is running perfectly. Not a single issue. Never overheated, never leaked coolant, never leaked oil, never sputtered, never backfired. It is running absolutely mint. Fires right up. Every time. Absolutely perfect. So I am really, really happy with it. Could not be happier. So now, all this thing needs is a really good cleaning. So what we're gonna do is go clean this thing up, because I probably should have done that to begin with. But you can see how much dirt's on there. Alright, got this thing cleaned up pretty good. Have to do another wipe down on it, but I think I definitely want to get new seats for it. These are just really bad. So we're going to order up some new seats as well. Pull the trigger on that, and this thing will be looking pretty good. What do you think, Finn? Vinny boy? What are you going to do? You can drive it. Sit, sit, shake. Alright, so the first ride on this thing went flawlessly. Not a single issue with it. Always starts up. It was 25 degrees today, and it ran perfect. So, doesn't mind the cold at all. We got this all cleaned up, looking good. We ordered up the taillight, the seats, and the latch for it, as well as a little sticker thing that goes on the side here. So for $2,700, wasn't too bad, plus another $1,400, plus another couple $100. So we have quite a bit into it, but it was definitely worth it in the end. It runs, drives perfectly. Don't have to worry about it for another probably 15 years. So, yep, this one's all finished up. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video of picking it up, diagnosing it, tearing it down, and building it back up and taking it for the first ride. Definitely a long process, but it's worth it in the end when you can see how good it turned out. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video. And until next time, we are